January, the pledge is the same.
I would love to be a successful artist.
I want to become a better chef.
Whether you want to lose weight, save more, be better, but come February, reality hits and motivation fades.
I'd say to about the 6 or 8 month mark.
About 77% of people start strong week 1, but by week 2, nearly a quarter have already quit. By the end of January, more than 40% have given up. Overall, only 9% of Americans who make resolutions actually reach them. Behavioral scientists say success comes from strategy. Research shows you're more likely to stick with a goal that's specific, fun, and trackable. Experts recommend setting approach-oriented goals, like I'll walk 30 minutes a day, instead of I'll stop being lazy. Break big goals into small steps and use tools to monitor your progress. Apps like Strides, Habitica, or CoachMe can help you stay motivated and accountable. So whether your 2026 resolution is to run more, stress less, or save better, success is not about the size of the goal, but the structure you build around it.
Show up every day with a good attitude.
Let yourself know that you're human, but also hold yourself accountable.
You're on the right track.
Alexa Lorenzo, WGEM News.